The King's super shooter says he was insane that day. Doctors say whatever he was then, right now, he has to go on trial. A city council meeting hijacked by hate, a coordinated campaign to spread anti-Semitism. City leaders struggle to figure out what to do.
It's not what they're saying, it's the fact that they're able to say it.
We sit down with the governors of Colorado and Utah. They want Americans to be able to disagree without threats or violence. We'll discuss Donald Trump echoing fascist calls to root out vermin.
That type of rhetoric is very dangerous.
It is downright scary.
And Denver Public Schools tells worried parents it's not about to retaliate against their school, as the district takes action again against another key leader who criticized the superintendent. All that tonight on Next. He has the most watched mind in all of Colorado for all the wrong reasons. The King's super shooter. Just as he's finally declared competent to stand trial for mass murder, he's pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity. So that means that there will be a 10th competency evaluation. Families of the victims have been waiting 2.5 years for this trial. The closest they'll come to closure, if that exists, or justice, if that exists, after the killing of 10 people at the grocery store in Boulder that day. Doctors say the suspect is now competent to be tried on 111 counts, that he understands the case against him. There's no disagreement about whether he did it, just whether he is legally responsible. The suspect's insanity plea today will change how prosecutors present this case.
We have the burden of proving the case and the fact that he was sane on March 22nd, 2021, beyond a reasonable doubt. Not guilty by reason of insanity is about his mental state and the ability to form intent and understand the consequences of his actions.
If a jury finds the suspect not guilty by reason of insanity, he goes to a mental hospital. Not going anywhere in the meantime. Judges set his bond at $100 million. That trial is expected to start next August, 42 months after the shooting. A city council meeting last night, hijacked by anti-Semitic rants. Vile stuff, like calls to put people in concentration camps. The public comment takeover that happened in Wheat Ridge appears to be part of an organized effort by white supremacists. It's happening across the country. Marshall Zellinger looks at how the city dealt with that constitutionally protected hate.
We are now at our public's right to speak.
And with that introduction by Wheat Ridge Mayor Bud Starker, we begin an uncomfortable civics lesson about public comment.
My comments tonight.
The comments by Candace, who spoke in person, were about infrastructure. The rest of the comments by virtual speakers were, well, their made-up names give it away.
It's Anti-Semite.
Judy Stroyer.
My name is Zeke Heil.
You know, I think when I got to Sig Heil, I scratched the name down and somewhere in there I figured out that we were getting bogus people calling.
Starker and the rest of the council sat through several speakers spouting anti-Semitism, something that the Anti-Defamation League has documented in city council meetings across the country, including in person in Sacramento in May.
I told you to shut your mouth and listen. I have the First Amendment.
And virtually in Walnut Creek, California in June.
We can terminate the...
Shut it down.
You guys cry about anti-Semitism.
Wheat Ridge City Council did not shut it down, but after a handful of speakers, they reduced the amount of time to speak from 3 minutes to 1.
There's a First Amendment that we have in the United States that's dear to the freedoms that we enjoy, and part of that is the freedom to express your opinion. We're a public body. People are welcome to come and talk and speak to their counselors, speak to their representatives, and we don't infringe upon that.
I listened to those comments. They were incredibly hateful, false, anti-Semitic, incredibly horrific. They were terrible. And the law protects most of that speech.
Jessica Smith, a constitutional law attorney, watched the meeting and explained where the line can be drawn.
There were a couple of speakers that made comments about potentially putting people in camps and rounding people up in the United States and putting them in camps. That would be illegal. And that is not protected speech.
So what happens if anti-Semitic remarks take over Wheat Ridge City Council public comment a second time?
I think we'll listen to those comments again. I think we'll try to once again balance the First Amendment rights that people have to come and talk to their representatives, even with the vile speech that they put out there.
A Wheat Ridge spokesman told me the city did something it normally does not do after virtual public comment. The city tried to track the IP addresses of those commenting and got led to areas of Salt Lake City, Chicago, San Jose, Portland, and New Jersey, though, like a phone number, you can spoof an IP address.
The fact that this is happening across the country, organized by white supremacists, that helped tip the scales for us today in terms of whether we talk about this. Do we give it any attention?
Sure, and you notice I didn't play any of the comments. It was hard enough just to play the fake names they announced.
It was ugly stuff. I mean, it was as bad as you could possibly imagine.
Which is why I was grateful to Jessica Smith, the attorney, for her to say, in paraphrasing, I heard a comment about putting people in camps, and maybe that wouldn't be protected speech. That's about as much as I'll give you. I don't need to play you anything, but I gave you a sample through a piece of sound that explained what was okay and what was not okay.
People are free to agree or disagree with our choice to cover it, but the fact is, there is a rising tide of this garbage, and it's in more and more places. Marshall, thank you. Our next conversation tonight is with Colorado's governor and our neighboring governor in Utah. Democratic Governor Jared Polis and Republican Governor Spencer Cox of Utah are trying to convince Americans to disagree better. An incredibly difficult project at this particular moment in political history. Over the weekend, former President Donald Trump echoed the language of extermination that has been used by fascists and dictators. Seen in American history. Very recently, former President Trump referred to his political enemies as vermin, talked about rooting them out. Historians and journalists said, that's the language of extermination. Like, history has seen this before. To which his spokesperson said that people who say that their entire existence will be crushed when he becomes president again. When you hear stuff like that, what do you hear?
Well, that's not only the opposite of disagree better, but it is downright scary. I mean, it's scary for journalists, for Jewish Americans, for LGBTQ plus Americans, for many Americans who see themselves in those comments of the people that the former president is calling out.
I agree. I mean, I think that's an example, again, of the worst part of our country. There's nothing more un-American than hating our fellow Americans, and I'm tired. I'm tired of Americans destroying each other. We have lots of bigger problems out there. Stuff like that, you know who that helps? That helps Vladimir Putin. It helps Xi Jinping. It helps Hamas, right? The people who are out there who are doing evil things in this world, they love that we're tearing each other apart.
In a moment, our next conversation continues. I'll ask the governors to each address some issues of extremism within their own parties. And they'll explain why they are optimistic about improving our political conversation, despite the evidence these days. Denver's McAuliffe School community is on edge, expecting all kinds of retaliation from the DPS superintendent and from the outgoing school board for the vocal criticism that McAuliffe staff and families have offered over school safety. Last night, the head of the innovation zone that oversees McAuliffe was disciplined by the district after criticizing DPS leadership. Colleen O'Brien had spoken before the board just minutes earlier. She wants DPS to extend McAuliffe's Innovation Zone plan, which gives the city's largest middle school more autonomy. And she expressed concerns with how the district's handling the investigation of a student seclusion room there. Investigation that led to the firing of a principal who blew the whistle on safety concerns in an interview with Next. The district does not have the ability to just fire O'Brien. She works for the Innovation Zone. But today they said that they have decided to limit her access to students and staff. She's essentially frozen out now. The district said that O'Brien's oversight of the school is conflicting with district policy. McCall's teachers and parents rallied outside school this morning, seeking assurances from the district that the outgoing school board isn't going to yank McAuliffe's Innovation Zone plan or do some kind of mass firing before they leave office. Today, the district told our Steve Steger there will not be a mass firing or Innovation Zone vote this week. Nothing yet from the district on whether that could happen in coming weeks.
Does mine look good?
Arts and crafts started before the first bell outside McAuliffe International School.
I'm going to say don't punish schools.
So did civics.
What the students really need is getting lost in the message of it all.
A large group of parents, students, and teachers protesting not against their school, but against their district and what they worry the district is about to do.
They're trying to take out their frustrations in the wrong place, and our kids are being the ones that are affected by it.
Their principal, Kurt Dennis, was fired this summer after speaking out to 9 News about school safety concerns.
Maybe when Kurt Dennis speaks out about school safety and there's an uproar from the community and no response from the district, it's not a great look.
Their assistant principal, on paid leave pending an investigation into a seclusion room, a room that came to light only after Dennis raised his concerns. They're worried others may be fired too, and say that they're concerned it's all retaliation for Dennis speaking out and for parents speaking out against the district.
You can never know what's going on inside someone else's head, right? but it sure feels like it.
That we need a lot more clarity about what's happening here.
Logan Keeney is a phys ed teacher at McAuliffe, speaking out for his colleagues who are on edge.
It's tough. It's tough. You know, we're staying together because we know that this is really important. Being a teacher is hard, and when you add all this on top of it, you know, it's next to impossible.
He knows speaking out brings a risk of its own, but this teacher says he feels he has nothing to lose.
Let's get a new board in. Let's get a third-party investigation, and let's find out.
For Next, I'm Steve Steger.
Throughout our months of reporting on school safety issues in Denver, it's been difficult to get Superintendent Alex Marrero to answer our basic questions. We asked to sit down with him again today. DPS said he was not available.
We just think we're far apart because of the media, in large part, not every media.
No offense taken, yeah.
Taken here, but we tend to elevate the most extreme voices.
Two governors who genuinely seem to like disagreeing with each other want the rest of us to give that a try. I'm going to ask them about some extremism in their own parties. And the attorney from Colorado, convicted of a felony for election lies, told prosecutors that Donald Trump planned to stay in power, win or lose. That video next. At the Republican Assembly. Has your party lost its internal struggle with extremism?
I don't think there's any battles that have been lost. I mean, I think we should all be pushing back.
The governor of Colorado and the governor of Utah, one Democrat, one Republican, think that Americans have more in common than we might think. Their Disagree Better project aims to encourage civil conversations. Tough to do when the Republican Party these days is run by election deniers. There's rising anti-Semitic extremism on the left. There's a pretty open discussion about that in tonight's next conversation. At the Republican Assembly. Has your party lost its internal struggle with extremism?
I don't think there's any battles that have been lost. I mean, I think we should all be pushing back against extremism in any form. And even just the nature of these questions, you know, it speaks to the problem we have in our country. Those people, right, that party, they're the evil ones. And this is what's leading to this degradation in our country and our institutions.
Governor Polis, do you see anti-Semitism rising within your own party? And if so, what can be done about it?
So sadly, anti-Semitism is not a product of the left or the right. And we've seen, skinhead rallies with right-wing neo-Nazis. We've, of course, very recently seen it on the left. I think what's important as leaders is to speak with one voice and say it's not okay to discriminate against somebody based on their religion. Anti-Semitism is not okay. Islamophobia is not okay. And it doesn't mean, again, that you have to agree on a very challenging and vexing issue of Palestine and Israel and peace in the Middle East. But you need to respect everybody for their humanity.
A last question for both of you. Why are you so much more optimistic about this than I am?
Because I don't have any other choice. I have to be optimistic. We've seen the data. There's great work being done out there. That most Americans hate what is happening out there. They're just dying for something else. Sadly, neither party at the national level is offering them any other choices right now. But at some point, somebody's going to figure this out. They're going to do it the right way, and Americans are going to respond. I also just believe at our core there are too many good people out there.
You have the position of being objective, because that's your job. We are in this fight, and so we have to be the happy warriors against all odds. I hope they're not as steep as you think they are, but against whatever odds there are, to try to create a better America, one that people can disagree without being disagreeable, disagree better, have authentic conversations, come together around our civic virtues and our love for our states, for Utah, for Colorado, for our country.
It's an interesting conversation. Governor Cox, Governor Polis, thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our full, unedited Next conversation is on the Next YouTube channel. There, we discuss how the governors approach a specific conversation about an issue where they have a very stark disagreement, the issue of abortion.
Another warm, dry day in November, a high of 70 degrees. This day kicked off with a beautiful sunrise. That mountain wave cloud helped for spectacular color in the sky. So many of you sharing your pictures this afternoon, we thank you. 70 is above the average of 54, but not quite the record of 79. And we do have cooler weather coming with mountain snow as early as Thursday, and perhaps some rain and snow for Denver by the weekend. Temperatures still comfortable this hour in the mid-50s downtown with light winds coming in out of the southwest that could ramp up over some of those higher passes later on tonight. Nederland, Estes Park, up to Fort Collins into the Cheyenne area. We do see there's a big, strong system off to the west of us, but a piece of energy comes in first, and then the main system arrives over the weekend. So between now and then, mild, dry weather for the Front Range. The mountains will start to see an increase in precipitation and perhaps some accumulating snow by Thursday. It's late in the weekend. Denver's got a shot at seeing a little bit of rain and snow here. A mild night with clear skies and temperatures in the 50s. We run above average until the end of the week. Chance for rain mixing with snow Sunday afternoon and maybe a few snow showers Monday morning. We start next week with temperatures cooler in the upper 40s.
Donald Trump may wish that Colorado's Jenna Ellis didn't turn state's evidence on him, because the video she recorded for prosecutors is pretty damning. That's next. Not paying Jenna Ellis' attorney fees could turn out to be one of the toughest business decisions Donald Trump's ever made. The attorney from Colorado, Ellis, left twisting in the wind, decided to cut a plea deal with prosecutors in Georgia. And ABC News has released video of Ellis' interview with prosecutors. It's our first look at her potential testimony against her former boss.
He said the boss is not going to leave under any circumstances. We are just going to stay in power.
In an interview with Fulton County investigators, Ellis said that Trump's deputy chief of staff told her that he was not going to leave the White House, win or lose. By that point, they had already lost a number of court battles related to the 2020 election. Ellis is one of 4 co-defendants with Trump who have now flipped and are expected to testify. They've all done interviews with prosecutors. Those interviews have been leaked. Prosecutors have asked a judge to issue an emergency order protecting the evidence. They claim that the leaks are an attempt to intimidate those witnesses who turned on Trump. Trump's attorney says Ellis' statements are meaningless because Trump did leave the White House. We still don't know when Ellis will testify in the case. The Fulton County DA said last week she expects the trial to run through early 2025. Meanwhile, the lawsuit in Colorado trying to keep Trump off the primary ballot here is going to move forward tomorrow in Denver. A group of voters is arguing that Trump should be barred from holding office because of his role with the January 6th insurrection. Trump's attorneys and the Colorado Republican Party said that if you keep him off the ballot, that's election interference. Judge will hear closing arguments from both sides tomorrow, and she says she'll have a verdict before Thanksgiving. We have your feedback right now, and it's next. Thank you. It's a sign to stop and hang loose. Next viewer named Heidi spotted a super chill crosswalk sign, probably could have guessed it, Boulder, near the CU campus. Transportation Department tells us, again, no surprise, this isn't their doing, this is somebody's custom modification. It's been fixed. If you see a sign that makes you look twice, maybe even smile, email it to next@9news.com so we can share it with the rest of the state. Feedback tonight from Wendy, who says, can the Wheat Ridge City Council require in-person comment? Last night, their public meeting was hijacked by anti-Semites calling in on the phone and ranting about concentration camps and so forth. She says, it'd be interesting to see if those folks calling in with their anti-Semitic comments would show up in person. Wendy, I would love to think that they wouldn't, but as Marshall's story showed us, in some other cities, they were able to rally a few people. I bet you they couldn't get all that many, though. Frank said, remarkable interview with the governors of Colorado and Utah. Wish it lasted an hour. Well, me too, Frank. It wasn't quite an hour, but you'll be able to find it on our next YouTube channel. It's a chance for us to have those longer conversations and to really get into difficult issues like the state of our political conversations today. I hope you'll take a look, and I'll see you next time.